Every person in the small coastal town of Grayhaven believed the old lighthouse had outlived its purpose. Modern ships relied on satellites and no one cared about the weathered stone tower standing alone on the cliffs. The only person who still climbed its spiral staircase every evening was 70-year-old Ethan Brooks, the town's last lighthouse keeper. For 42 years, Ethan had lit the great lamp before sunset, even after the government officially shut the lighthouse down. People laughed at him, some called him stubborn, others thought he simply couldn't let go of the past. Ethan never argued. He always smiled and said, "Some lights are not meant for ships alone." No one understood what he meant. One cold autumn morning, Ethan received a small envelope without a return address. Inside was a single handwritten letter. "If the storm comes on October 17th, light the beacon one last time. It will save more lives than you can imagine." There was no signature, no explanation, only those words. At first, Ethan thought someone was playing a joke, but something about the handwriting felt strangely familiar. He locked the letter inside an old wooden drawer and tried to forget it. Days passed. Weather forecasts predicted calm skies. Tourists filled the beaches. Fishing boats sailed farther into the sea than usual. Everything looked peaceful. Then October 17th arrived. The morning was unusually warm. Birds flew inland. Dogs barked without reason. The sea became strangely quiet. Ethan stood outside the lighthouse staring toward the horizon. He remembered the letter. For the first time in years, fear settled into his heart. The town council refused to reopen the lighthouse. "The weather is clear," they said. "There is no danger." Still, Ethan climbed the tower carrying an old toolbox. The machinery had not worked in years. Rust covered every gear. The electrical wires had nearly fallen apart. Hour after hour, he repaired whatever he could with trembling hands. As evening approached, dark clouds suddenly appeared from nowhere. The wind changed direction. The ocean began roaring. People on the beach rushed home. Fishing boats tried desperately to return. The weather station announced an emergency warning. A rare superstorm had formed much faster than expected. Panic spread across Grayhaven. Power lines snapped. Electricity disappeared. Communication towers failed. The town was plunged into darkness. Only the old lighthouse remained. Ethan looked at the broken switch. He whispered a quiet prayer. Then he pulled the handle. Nothing happened. His heart sank. He checked the wiring one last time. A tiny spark flashed. Suddenly the massive lens began turning. The great beacon exploded into life. A brilliant white light cut through the storm. Far out at sea, dozens of fishing boats spotted the beam. Without GPS, without radios, they followed the light towards safety. For hours, Ethan kept the ancient machine running by hand after its motor failed. Rain poured through broken windows. Cold winds battered the tower. His hands bled as he cranked the heavy gears. He never stopped. Just before sunrise, the storm finally weakened. Rescue teams counted every boat that had returned. Not a single fisherman had been lost. It was the greatest miracle in Grayhaven's history. The entire town gathered outside the lighthouse. They wanted to thank Ethan, but the tower door remained closed. When they entered, they found him sitting peacefully beside the lamp. He had passed away quietly before sunrise, still holding the crank that had kept the light alive. The town fell silent. For the first time, everyone understood his words. Some lights are not meant for ships alone. Weeks later, workers restored the lighthouse instead of demolishing it. During the repairs, they discovered an old storage box hidden beneath the stairs. Inside were hundreds of letters. Each one had been written by sailors, travelers, and families over 4 decades. Every letter thanked Ethan for guiding them home through storms. Among them was one unfinished envelope. The handwriting matched the mysterious warning letter, but Ethan had written it himself 20 years earlier. The date on the unfinished draft was October 17th, the same date as the storm. No one could explain how the letter had arrived before the disaster. Some believed Ethan had somehow predicted the future. Others thought it was simply fate. Years later, children often visited the Lighthouse Museum. A guide would always end the tour by pointing toward the great lamp. "This lighthouse no longer protects ships," she would say. "It reminds us that one person's quiet dedication can save lives long before anyone notices." Visitors always paused before leaving. Near the exit hung Ethan's final photograph. He wasn't smiling for the camera. He was looking toward the sea, as if waiting for someone, or perhaps watching over everyone who would one day need a light in their darkest storm. And every October 17, just after sunset, the lighthouse still shines for 1 hour, not because ships need it, but because hope sometimes survives through the people. who refused to let their light go out